The ballroom at the Waldorf Astoria glittered like a jewel box someone had cracked open and left bleeding light. Chandeliers dripped crystal the size of fists, throwing rainbows across white tablecloths and the black shoulders of tuxedos. I stood near the edge of the dance floor holding a flute of champagne I hadn't sipped yet, watching the room move around me the way water moves around a stone. My name is Elijah Thompson, 45 years old, founder and CEO of Apex Innovations. Net worth north of 800 million on paper, probably more if you counted the illiquid stock. Tonight they were giving me the Innovator of the Year award. The plaque already sat on a velvet pedestal near the stage, my name engraved in gold beneath a laser-cut silhouette of a circuit board that looked more like art than tech. I wore a Tom Ford tuxedo that cost more than most people's rent for a year. Aya, my wife of 19 years, stood beside me in emerald silk that caught every light in the room and threw it back softer. She smelled like jasmine and the vanilla candle she always lit before we left the house. Our twins Mia and Malik were back in Atlanta, probably arguing over who got the last slice of the leftover pizza we'd ordered before we flew out. They'd sent a group text an hour ago, hearts, fire emojis, slay dad. I smiled at the memory, but the smile didn't quite reach my eyes. Because I could feel it already, the undercurrent. The way certain conversations quieted when I approached. The way some handshakes lingered a half second too long as if the other person was deciding whether to grip harder or let go faster. I'd been in rooms like this for 15 years now, long enough to know the difference between admiration and assessment, long enough to know when someone was looking at my skin before they looked at my numbers. Victoria Hargrove appeared like she'd been summoned by the tension itself. Blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, red gown so deep it looked black until the light hit it just right. Diamonds at her throat and wrists that probably cost more than the GDP of a small country. Wife of Harlan Hargrove, the real estate billionaire who turned half of Manhattan into luxury condos and the other half into billboards advertising them. Harlan wasn't here tonight, he never came to these things anymore, but Victoria always did. She liked the spotlight the way some people like oxygen. She floated toward us, wine glass balanced between two fingers like it was an accessory instead of a drink. Her smile arrived first, sharp, practiced, the kind that never quite reached her eyes. Elijah Thompson, she said, drawing out my name like she was tasting it. The man of the hour, I inclined my head. Mrs. Hargrove, good to see you. She turned to Maya without missing a beat. And you must be the lovely wife, Maya, isn't it? I've seen your charity work, very noble. Maya's fingers tightened around mine for a fraction of a second. Thank you, she said, voice smooth as glass. We do what we can. Victoria's gaze slid back to me. You've come so far, Elijah, from, where was it, Inglewood to this. She gestured at the room with her glass. Wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim. Quite the climb. The first barb landed soft, almost gentle. I felt it anyway. Inglewood, not Bronzeville, not Hyde Park, Inglewood, the part of Chicago people mention when they want to remind you where you started, not where you are. I've had help, I said evenly. Good team, good wife, good luck. Luck, she laughed, a sound like crystal breaking in slow motion. I think we both know it's more than luck, discipline, ambition, the right opportunities. Maya shifted beside me. I squeezed her hand once, stay calm. I'd heard worse. I'd heard it in boardrooms when they asked if I was the diversity hire. I'd heard it in country clubs when they assumed I was the valet, but tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was supposed to be mine. Victoria took a long sip of her wine. Her eyes never left my face. You know, Harlan always says the tech world is so egalitarian. Anyone can make it, even people from challenging backgrounds. The room seemed to tilt slightly, challenging backgrounds, code, poor, black. Urban, all the words people use when they don't want to say the real ones out loud. I kept my smile in place. Harlan's done well for himself too. Real estate's a tough game. Oh, he hates losing, she said. Absolutely hates it. She leaned in closer, perfume sharp and expensive. But you wouldn't know about that, would you? Losing. The hook sank deeper. I felt Maya tense beside me. The orchestra had started a slow waltz behind us, strings sliding over the chatter like silk over skin. Couples moved onto the floor. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to stay and make her eat every word. I did neither. Instead, I said, I know enough about winning to appreciate the view from here. Victoria's smile sharpened. Charming. She lifted her glass again, this time deliberately. To your success. And then, whether by accident or design, the glass tilted. Red wine poured in a perfect arc across my white dress shirt. Hit the silk bow tie soaked through the cotton underneath, spread like blood across my chest. Cold, sticky. The metallic scent rose immediately, mixing with her perfume. The room froze. A collective gasp rippled outward. Phones came up. Cameras flashed. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth in mock horror. Oh my God, Elijah, I am so sorry. These heels, the floor. Maya stepped in front of me, voice low and lethal. You did that on purpose. Victoria blinked, innocent. I would never. It was an accident. Truly, but her eyes, those pale blue eyes, were laughing. I stood there, wine dripping onto the marble, feeling every eye in the room on me. The humiliation wasn't loud, it was slow, deep. It started in my stomach and climbed up my throat like bile. 25 years of boardroom battles, late nights coding in a one-bedroom walk-up, every time I smiled through a no that really meant not you, all of it condensed into this single moment. Wine on my shirt, laughter behind hands. The innovator of the year looking like he'd been dunked in a crime scene. I looked down at the stain, looked back at Victoria, and I smiled, not the polite smile I'd worn all night, a different smile, the one that said, you have no idea what you've just done. Maya saw it first. Her hand on my arm tightened not in fear but in recognition. Victoria saw it too. Her own smile faltered for half a second. I didn't say a word. I simply turned, took Maya's hand, and walked toward the stage. The MC was already calling my name. I accepted the award with wine still wet on my shirt. The applause was polite, confused, uncertain. I leaned into the microphone. Thank you, I said. My voice didn't shake. This award is for everyone who was told they didn't belong and showed up anyway. The room was silent. I looked straight at Victoria. And to those who think a little wine can wash away 25 years of work, thank you for the reminder. Some stains don't come out. They become part of the story. I stepped off the stage. Maya met me at the bottom. She didn't speak. She just kissed me slow, deliberate, right there in front of everyone. And that was when the real night began. The applause died slowly as I stepped off the stage, the plaque heavy in my hand, wine still damp against my chest like a brand. Maya was already moving toward me through the crowd, cutting a path with that quiet grace she always had when she was angry enough to burn the room down but too composed to let anyone see the flames. She reached me just as the orchestra struck up again, strings swelling to cover the murmurs. Her fingers found mine, squeezed once hard then softer. We didn't speak until we were in the hallway outside the ballroom, away from the flashbulbs and the forced smiles. The carpet was thick under my shoes, muffling everything except the distant hum of conversation and the faint clink of glasses. Maya turned to me, eyes searching my face like she was looking for cracks. Elijah, she said, voice low, you okay? I looked down at the stain on my shirt. It had spread dark and uneven, like spilled ink on paper. I'm fine, I said, but the words tasted like ash. She touched the fabric lightly, fingers careful not to press. You didn't have to smile. Yes, I did. I met her eyes. If I'd let her see it hurt, she wins twice. Maya exhaled through her nose, the sound almost a laugh, but not quite. She already won once. Everyone saw, not everyone. I lifted the plaque slightly. They saw this too. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. Let's get you out of that shirt. We didn't go back inside. We took the service elevator to our suite on the 32nd floor. The doors opened onto a hallway lined with gold-framed mirrors. I caught my reflection, tuxedo perfect except for that ugly red bloom across my chest, and looked away. In the room, Maya helped me out of the jacket first, then the bow tie, then the shirt. She held it up to the light like she was inspecting evidence. This was custom. Tom Ford doesn't do wine-proof. I tried to smile. Add it to the dry cleaning bill. She tossed the shirt into the bathroom hamper and came back to me, hands on my bare shoulders. Talk to me, really. I sat on the edge of the bed. The city glittered 40 stories below, taxis like yellow fireflies, buildings stacked like glowing dominoes. I felt like I was 16 again, I said quietly, standing in the principal's office after they accused me of stealing the cafeteria money because I was the only black kid in the room. Same look on her face, same certainty I didn't belong. Maya sat beside me, her dress pooled around us like spilled ink. You proved them wrong then, you're proving them wrong now. Am I? I looked at her, or am I just the entertainment, the token who gets poured on for laughs? She took my face in her hands. You are Elijah Thompson. You built a company from a laptop in our first apartment while I worked nights at the hospital. You hired people who look like us when no one else would. You gave our kids a life where they don't have to wonder if they'll be the only one in the room. That woman, she's married to money. You're married to me, and you built something real. Don't let her cheap shot make you forget that. I closed my eyes, her thumbs brushed my cheeks. I smiled because I knew something she didn't, I said. Maya's brow lifted. What? I opened my eyes. I know why Harlan Hargrove wasn't here tonight, she waited. He's in trouble, bad trouble. Their real estate portfolio is over-leveraged. They borrowed against properties they can't sell. The bank is calling loans. And Apex. I paused. Apex owns a silent stake in that bank. I bought in 6 years ago through a holding company, anonymous. After they foreclosed on 3 buildings in my old neighborhood in Chicago, I never planned to use it. It was just leverage, quiet leverage. Maya's breath caught. You never told me. I didn't want it to be personal. I wanted it to be business. I looked at her. But tonight it became personal. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What are you going to do? I thought about Victoria's laugh, the way her glass tilted. The way the room had looked at me like I was a spectacle. I'm going to wait, I said. Let them sweat, let the bank send the first notice, then I'll decide. Maya nodded slowly. In the gala, the photos, the headlines, let them print them. I stood up, walked to the window. The city looks small from here. Tomorrow morning we fly home. I have a board meeting at 10, and after that, I turned back to her. After that, we see how deep their pockets really go. She rose, crossed the room, wrapped her arms around me from behind. Her chin rested on my shoulder. I love you, she whispered, even when you're plotting. I covered her hands with mine. I love you more, and I'm not plotting revenge, I'm plotting justice. We stood like that until the city lights blurred, then we packed, quietly, efficiently, like people who knew the next move was already in motion. The flight home was uneventful, first class. Maya slept against my shoulder. I stared out the window at the clouds and thought about leverage. Real leverage isn't money, it's knowledge, and I had plenty. When we landed in Atlanta, the driver was waiting. Black Escalade, tinted windows. He opened the door for Maya first, then me. Welcome back, Mr. Thompson, I nodded. Home, please. The house was quiet when we arrived. Mia and Malik were at school. The housekeeper had left a note, welcome home, dinner in the warmer. I dropped my bag in the foyer and went straight to my The room smelled like leather and old books. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the backyard, pool, garden, the swing set the twins had outgrown but refused to let us remove. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up the encrypted folder labeled Hargrove. Financials, loan documents, emails from whistleblowers inside the bank, property valuations that didn't match appraisals, shell companies funneling money offshore. It was all there. A house of cards built on debt and denial. I called my CFO, Priya. She answered on the first ring. Elijah saw the headlines. You okay? I'm fine, I said. I need you to look at something. I shared the screen. We went through it line by line. She whistled low. This is nuclear. I know. What are we doing with it? I leaned back. Nothing yet. She paused. You're sure? I'm sure. We hung up. That night the kids came home. Mia hugged me first. Dad, the video is everywhere. People are pissed on your behalf. Malik fist bumped me. You looked badass, shirt ruined, still smiling like you own the room. I laughed. It felt good, real. I did own the room, they just didn't know it. Maya made spaghetti, her stress cooking. We ate at the kitchen island, talking about school college applications, the upcoming soccer tournament. Normal, safe, but underneath the wheels were turning. 2 days later, the first domino fell. Bloomberg ran a story. Hargrove Holdings faces liquidity crisis, major loans called due. The stock dropped 14% in after-hours trading. Victoria posted on Instagram an artful black and white photo of her looking pensive, caption, "Storms pass, we endure." Comments were brutal, like "You passed wine on Elijah Thompson, karma in a red dress." She deleted it within hours. Harlan called my office the next morning, not his assistant, him personal line. "Elijah," he said when I picked up, voice smooth, practiced, "we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. "Do we?" "You know why I'm calling." "I can guess." Silence. "Then this doesn't have to get ugly." "It already did," I said, "when your wife decided my shirt needed redecorating." He exhaled. "Victoria has impulses. She's apologized." "She hasn't." Another pause. "What do you want?" I looked out the window. The garden was blooming, roses Maya had planted last spring. "I want you to remember what it's like to be on the receiving end of someone else's decision for once." "Elijah, goodbye." Harlan. I hung up. That afternoon, the bank sent the formal notice. 90 days to cure the defaults or face foreclosure on 7 flagship properties, including the flagship tower on Park Avenue, the one with his name in gold letters 30 stories up. Victoria called next, private number, voice shaking. "Elijah, please, we have children. This will destroy us." I listened, let her talk. "I was wrong," she said. "I was drunk. I was jealous. You were getting the award and Harlan, he's been struggling." I lashed out. "I'm sorry, truly sorry." I closed my eyes. The humiliation from that night flashed, wine cold on my skin, laughter in my ears. But so did Maya's hand in mine, my kids' texts, the plaque on my desk. "Sorry doesn't undo the moment," I said quietly, "but it might buy you time." Silence. "I'll consider a payment plan," I said, "through the bank, fair terms, no more games." "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," I said. "This isn't mercy, it's business." I hung up. Maya found me in the office later. "You let them off." "Not off," I said. "Structured, they pay, they learn, and the foundation gets a new donor line item." She smiled. "You're a better man than I am." "No," I said, "just a tired one who wants to sleep at night." We stood together at the window, watching the sun drop behind the trees. The world kept turning. The stain on my shirt was gone, dry cleaned, forgotten. But the memory, that stayed. And somewhere in New York, a billionaire and his wife were learning what it felt like to have someone else hold the glass. The next morning I woke before the alarm. Sunlight sliced through the blinds in sharp lines across the bedroom floor. Maya was still asleep, one arm thrown over the pillow, breathing slow and even. I watched her for a minute, the way her chest rose and fell, the faint freckles across her nose that only showed up in morning light. She looked peaceful. I felt anything but. I slipped out of bed, pulled on sweatpants and a t-shirt and padded downstairs. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood. Coffee maker on, beans ground, water hissed. I stood at the island staring at the dark liquid swirling in the pot, mind already miles away. By the time the kids came down, I had breakfast going: scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, toast, fresh fruit. Mia shuffled in first, hair in a messy bun, phone in hand. "Dad, you're cooking on a Tuesday, special occasion," I said. "You're both home for once." Malik followed, still in pajama pants, rubbing his eyes. "Smells good. What's the catch?" "No catch." I slid plates across the island. "Just wanted to see your faces before the day starts." They sat, ate, talked about school midterms, college essays, the soccer coach who kept benching Malik for no reason. Normal, grounding. I listened more than I spoke, letting their voices fill the space the silence had left last night. After they left for school, backpacks slung, hugs quick but tight, I went back to my office. Laptop open, encrypted folder still waiting. I called Priya again. "Line secure?" she asked first thing. "Always." "Harlan's team reached out last night through counsel. They're offering to settle the loans early, 80 cents on the dollar if we don't accelerate." I leaned back. 80 cents. That's generous for a man who's about to lose everything. "It's a lifeline," she said. "They know we can call it all due tomorrow." I stared at the screen, numbers, projections, lives tied to balance sheets. "Tell them 95 cents and a public apology from Victoria on record, no NDA, no spin." Priya exhaled. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." We hung up. I spent the morning on calls, board members, legal, PR, everyone wanted to know the play. I kept it simple. We protect our interests, we don't destroy for sport. But underneath, the humiliation from the gala still simmered, not as hot, not as raw, but present, like a bruise you forget until you press on it. Maya found me at noon. She leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. Kids are at practice, house is empty, talk. I closed the laptop. Nothing to talk about yet. Bullshit. She crossed the room, sat on the edge of my desk. You've been quiet since we landed, too quiet. I rubbed my face. I'm thinking. About her, about him, about what happens when power flips. I met her eyes. I could end them completely, foreclose, leak the fraud docs, watch the empire burn. Part of me wants that, the part that remembers every time someone looked at me like I didn't belong. Maya listened, didn't interrupt. But the other part, I trailed off. The other part remembers my mom working 2 jobs so I could go to college. Remembers my dad telling me, don't let them make you bitter, son, let them make you better. I built Apex to prove something, not to tear things down. She reached for my hand. So what are you choosing? I looked at our fingers laced together, her wedding band next to mine, simple gold, no diamonds, just promise. I'm choosing leverage, I said, not destruction. They pay, they apologize, they change or they fall, but I don't push. Maya smiled small, proud. That's my husband. We sat like that until the sun shifted across the floor. That evening the response came. Victoria's lawyer emailed, 95 cents accepted, wire transfer scheduled for next business day, and attached a draft statement from Victoria herself. I want to personally apologize to Mr. Elijah Thompson for my unacceptable behavior at the Tech Titans Gala. My actions were thoughtless, rooted in bias, and hurtful. There is no excuse. I am committed to learning and doing better. I will be making a donation to the Thompson Foundation for underrepresented entrepreneurs in the amount of $5 million, and I will be speaking publicly at next year's gala to address systemic barriers in our industry. I read it twice. Maya read over my shoulder. She's scared. She's smart, I said. She knows the court of public opinion moves faster than any judge. I replied through counsel, accepted, no changes, no NDA, full public release. We sent it. The next morning, the wire hit, 95 cents on every dollar, clean, quiet, no fanfare. Victoria's statement dropped at 10 a.m. Eastern. Social media lit up. Some called it damage control, some called it genuine, most called it overdue. I didn't comment. Instead, I called my foundation director. New donor, I said, 5 million, use it for scholarships, mentorship, legal aid for black founders facing discrimination. He whistled. From who? Doesn't matter, I said. Just make it count. That afternoon, I drove to the office. First time since the gala, employees stood when I walked in. Applause, not pity applause, real proud. Priya met me in the hallway. Board's happy, stocks up 3% on the news. Good, I said, now let's get back to work. We did, months passed. The Hargroves restructured, sold assets, kept the name on fewer buildings. Victoria started a diversity initiative, small but real. Harlan stayed quiet, no more headlines. I stayed busy. Apex launched a new platform, supply chain AI, that cut waste by 40%. We hired more, promoted from within, doubled the foundation's reach. Maya and I took the kids to Chicago one weekend, walked the old neighborhood, showed them the corner store where I'd bought candy with quarters from odd jobs, the basketball court where I'd learned to shoot left-handed because the right rim was bent. Mia asked, "Did you ever think you'd be here?" I looked at the skyline in the distance. Every day, Malik grinned. And now you're the one pouring the wine, I laughed. No, I'm the one making sure the table's big enough for everyone. Back in Atlanta, life settled into rhythm. School plays, soccer games, late-night talks with Maya about the future. The twins graduated high school. Mia headed to Stanford for computer science. Malik chose Morehouse for engineering. Proud doesn't cover it. 1 year after the gala, I was invited back. Same ballroom, same chandelier, different tuxedo. Victoria was there, different gown, no diamonds this time, simple black dress. She approached during cocktail hour. Elijah, she said, voice softer, no edge. I nodded. Victoria, she looked at me, really looked. I meant the apology. I know, I was wrong. You were, she swallowed. Thank you for not destroying us. I studied her, saw the lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, the weight of consequence. I didn't do it for you, I said. I did it for me, for my kids. For every person who ever got poured on and told to smile. She nodded once. Fair. Then she walked away. I turned to Maya. She slipped her hand into mine. Ready for round two? She asked. I smiled, the real one this time. Always. The MC called my name again. Another award, another speech. This time my shirt stayed dry, but the memory didn't, and that was enough. The years after that second gala moved slower than I expected, not because time dragged, but because it started to feel like breathing instead of running. Maya and I settled into a rhythm that felt earned. Mornings were still early coffee, emails, quick kisses before the kids left for college, but the evenings belonged to us. We'd sit on the back porch with glasses of red, never white. We both laughed about that now, watching the fireflies come out over the lawn. She'd tell me about her patients at the hospital, the ones who made her cry and the ones who made her laugh. I'd tell her about the new hires at Apex, the ones who reminded me of myself at 25, hungry, brilliant, scared they'd be found out. Mia graduated Stanford in 3 years instead of 4. Computer science degree, summa cum laude, capstone project on ethical AI bias detection that got picked up by 3 major journals. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown, and when she spotted us in the crowd, she blew a kiss straight at Maya. I filmed the whole thing on my phone, hands shaking just enough that the video wobbled. Malik followed 2 years later from Morehouse Mechanical Engineering, focus on sustainable infrastructure. He interned with Apex the summer before graduation, spent half his time arguing with our lead engineers about carbon-neutral supply chains. I let him win most of the arguments. Watching your kids outthink you is a quiet kind of pride that settles deep in the bones. Victoria's $5 million donation landed exactly as promised. We named the scholarship fund after my mother, Eleanor Thompson Memorial Fund. Full rides for Black and Brown students in STEM, mentorship from Apex executives, legal support for anyone facing discrimination in tech hiring or funding. The first class graduated last spring. I spoke at their ceremony. No notes, just truth. I used to think success was about proving I belonged, I told them. Then someone poured wine on me in front of a room full of people who already thought I didn't, and I realized belonging isn't something you earn by being perfect, it's something you claim by refusing to disappear. They cheered, not polite applause, real, loud, relieved cheering, like they'd been holding their breath for years. Apex crossed the $10 billion valuation mark quietly, no big party, no press release. We didn't need the noise anymore. We were the noise. Competitors started copying our supply chain algorithms. We open sourced the core ethics module instead of suing. Let them build on it. Let the whole industry rise. I'd learned the hard way that hoarding power just makes the room smaller. Harlan Hargrove died 3 years after the loan restructure. Heart attack, quiet funeral. Victoria didn't speak to the press. She sent a handwritten note to my office instead. No envelope. Just cream stationery folded once. Elijah, I never thanked you properly. You could have ended us. You didn't. I'm still learning what that means. Victoria, I read it twice, then filed it in the drawer with the gala photos I never look at anymore. Not forgiveness, not friendship, just acknowledgement. Some stains fade, some become part of the fabric. Maya and I took our first real vacation in a decade, Santorini. White buildings stacked on cliffs like sugar cubes, blue domes. Sunsets that looked painted. We walked the Caldera Trail at dawn, barefoot on warm stone, holding hands like teenagers. She stopped at one point, turned to me. You ever think about that night? She asked. Sometimes, I said, not the wine, the smile. She tilted her head. What about it? I smiled because I knew I had the power to ruin her, and I chose not to use it the way she would have used hers. I looked out at the sea. That was the real win. Maya kissed me then, slow, salty from the ocean air. That's why I married you, we laughed. The sound bounced off the white walls and disappeared into the wind. Back home, life kept moving. Apex opened a new R&D lab in Atlanta's West End, right in the neighborhood where I grew up, named it the Aleener Thompson Innovation Center. Free coding boot camps for kids from the projects. Free legal clinics for small black-owned businesses. I taught the first class myself. 23 teenagers, eyes wide, laptops open. I told them the same thing I tell everyone now. You don't have to be the loudest in the room, you just have to be the one who doesn't leave. One of the girls, 16, braids down her back, raised her hand. What if they try to pour wine on you? I smiled, the same one I'd used that night. Then you smile back, I said, and you keep building. She nodded like she understood more than I'd said. Mia got engaged last summer. Her fiancé, Lena, is a civil rights attorney. They met at a conference on AI ethics. When Mia told me, she was crying and laughing at the same time. Dad, she's brilliant, and she's not scared of me being smarter than her. I hugged her so hard her feet left the floor. Good, because you are smarter than almost everyone. Malik started his own company 6 months ago, Sustainable Materials for Construction. He pitched me for seed funding. I turned him down. You don't need my money, I said. You need to prove it without me, he grinned. That's what I figured you'd say. He raised the round anyway. First check came from a foundation I'd never heard of. Turns out Victoria had quietly endowed a venture fund for young black entrepreneurs. No fanfare, no press, just capital. I didn't call her. I didn't need to. Last month, Apex hosted its annual summit. 5,000 attendees, keynote by me. No tuxedo this time, just a black suit, open collar, no tie. I walked on stage to a standing ovation before I even spoke. I looked out at the crowd, diverse, young, hungry. Then I told them the story, not the polished version, the real one, the wine, the laughter, the smile, the leverage, the choice. I ended with the only thing that mattered. Power isn't what you hold over someone, I said. It's what you refuse to do to them when you could. The room went quiet, then applause, slow at first, then thunderous. I stepped off stage. Maya was waiting in the wings. She slipped her hand into mine. Still smiling, she asked. Still smiling, I said, and I was, because some nights you get poured on, some nights you pour back, not wine but something stronger, grace, justice, a bigger table, and a seat for everyone. The auditorium lights dimmed slowly after my speech, leaving only the soft glow of exit signs and the lingering echo of applause. I stepped off the stage into the wings, heart still thumping from the adrenaline, and Maya was already there, arms open, smile wide enough to light the whole backstage area. She didn't say anything at first, she just pulled me into her and held on like she was anchoring me to the earth. I buried my face in her hair for a second, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with the faint perfume she'd worn since our wedding day. It grounded me. You killed it, she whispered against my ear. They heard every word. I pulled back just enough to look at her. Did they hear the part about not pouring wine? She laughed, quiet, real. They heard the part about choosing grace over revenge. That's the one that matters. We walked out together through the side door, avoiding the crush of people still milling in the lobby. The night air hit cool against my skin when we stepped outside. Atlanta in late spring, warm enough that the breeze felt like a promise instead of a slap. Maya slipped her hand into mine as we walked to the car. No driver tonight, just us. The Escalade sat under a street lamp, black paint gleaming like obsidian. Inside, she kicked off her heels before I even started the engine. Feet hurt, always, she said, but worth it. You looked good up there. Shirt stayed dry. I chuckled. Progress. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, city lights streaking past the windows in golden blurs. Maya reached over and turned on the radio, low jazz, the kind she likes when she's thinking. I glanced at her profile, still the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. You ever wonder what would have happened if I'd called the loans that first week? I asked. She didn't answer right away, just watched the road. Every day, she said finally. I wonder what it would have felt like to watch them fall, and I wonder if you'd still be the man I married. I kept my eyes on the highway. I almost did. That night in the hotel, I had the number for the bank president pulled up. One call. I know, but I kept seeing my mom's face, the way she'd come home from cleaning houses, feet swollen, back bent, but still humming hymns. She never cursed the people who paid her pennies. She just worked harder, told me, don't hate the game, baby, change the rules. Maya turned in her seat to face me. You changed the rules. Did I? You made the table bigger, scholarships, the lab in the West End. Open source ethics code. You didn't burn their house down. You built a better one next door and invited everyone in. I swallowed. Some days it feels like I let her off easy. Maya reached over, rested her hand on my thigh. You let yourself off easy. You didn't let that night define you. That's harder than revenge. We pulled into the driveway, house lights on timers, warm glow in the windows. Mia and Malik were home for the weekend. Their cars sat side by side in the garage. I killed the engine. We sat there in the quiet for a minute, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. Inside, the kids were in the kitchen, Mia at the island with her laptop, Malik raiding the fridge. They both looked up when we walked in. How'd it go? Mia asked first. Malik grinned around a mouthful of leftover chicken. Dad dropped the mic again. I set the plaque on the counter. Something like that. Mia closed her laptop. We watched the live stream. Mom cried. Maya rolled her eyes. I did not. You totally did, Malik said. I recorded it. Blackmail material. We laughed. The sound filled the kitchen, easy, full reel. Maya started making tea. I leaned against the counter and watched my family move around each other like they'd been doing it forever. Mia showing Malik something on her screen, him pretending not to be impressed, Maya humming while the kettle heated. Later, after the kids went upstairs, Maya and I sat on the couch in the living room, lights low, her feet in my lap. I rubbed her arches while she sipped chamomile. You know what I thought about tonight? She asked. What? When you were on stage, I thought about that first apartment, the one with the leaky faucet and the neighbor who played trumpet at 3 a.m. You'd come home from coding all night, eyes red, and you'd still sit with me on that lumpy couch and talk about the future like it was already real. It was, I said. She smiled softly. You never stopped believing it, even when they poured wine on you. Even when the headlines called you a victim, you just kept building. I looked at her. Couldn't have done it without you. You could have, but I'm glad you didn't. We sat like that until the tea went cold. Then we went to bed, no rush, no agenda, just us. The next year brought more change than I expected. Apex hit 15 billion in valuation after the new platform launch. We didn't celebrate with champagne. We celebrated with a block party in the West End, free food, live music, coding demos for kids, legal clinics for small businesses. Hundreds showed up, strangers hugged me, old neighbors called me by my childhood nickname. Little Eli all grown up, one auntie said, pinching my cheek like I was still 10. Mia and Lena got married in a small ceremony on the beach in Hilton Head. Malik was best man. He cried through his toast. I walked Mia down the aisle. When I placed her hand in Lena's, I whispered, take care of each other. The world's still trying to pour wine on people like us. Mia squeezed my hand. We'll pour it back with love. Malik's company landed its first major contract, sustainable concrete for a city redevelopment project. He called me at midnight to tell me, voice shaking, Dad, we did it. You did it, I corrected. I just watched. He laughed. You gave me the blueprint. I smiled into the dark. Keep building. Victoria's foundation grew quietly. She never sought credit, never asked for recognition. But every year on the anniversary of the gala, she sent a single check to the Alina Thompson Fund. No note, just the money and a postmark from New York. I never acknowledged it. Some things don't need words. Last spring, Maya and I renewed our vows, 25 years, small backyard ceremony, just family, close friends, the preacher from our old church. Mia and Malik stood up with us. When the preacher asked if I took Maya again, I looked at her, same eyes, same smile, more laugh lines now, and said, I do every day. Afterward, we danced on the grass under string lights, slow, barefoot. She rested her head on my chest. You still smell like possibility, she murmured. You still feel like home, I said. We swayed until the music stopped and the guests drifted away. Then we sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies again. I thought about that night in New York, the wine, the smile I gave Victoria when she expected me to break. I hadn't broken, I'd bent just enough to spring back stronger, and the table I'd built, it had room for everyone, even her, especially her, because real power isn't keeping someone down, it's lifting them up when they finally see the light, and sometimes that light starts with a single drop of red on a white shirt, a reminder, a beginning, a story that ends with grace instead of ruin. I pulled Maya closer. She sighed against me, content, and for the first time in years I slept without dreaming of stains. The porch swing creaked softly under our weight as the last fireflies blinked out one by one. Maya's head rested against my shoulder, her breathing slow and even, the kind of quiet that only comes after a long day of being fully present. I didn't move. I didn't want to break the spell. The string lights Maya had hung for the vow renewal still glowed faintly above us, casting small golden pools across the grass. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, then fell silent. The neighborhood slept. I thought about how far we'd come, not just from that night in New York, but from every night before it. The apartment with the leaky faucet. The nights I coded until dawn while she studied for nursing boards. The first time Apex turned a profit and we cried in the kitchen because we could finally pay the electric bill on time. The first time someone called me sir in a boardroom instead of boy. All of it stacked like bricks in a wall I hadn't realized I was building until someone tried to knock it down with a single glass of wine. Maya stirred. "You're thinking loud again." I smiled into the dark. "Can't help it." "About what?" "About how close I came to letting her win." She lifted her head, looked at me. "You never let her win, not for a second." "I wanted to," I admitted. "That first week after the gala, I sat in this very office with the bank president's number pulled up. One call and their whole world collapses. Foreclosures, bankruptcy, headlines that would have made her gala stunt look like child's play." Maya didn't flinch, she just listened. "I rehearsed the conversation in my head," I went on. "Cold, precise, no emotion, just facts. Your loans are due, your assets are insufficient. Good luck." I could taste the satisfaction. "But you didn't make the call." "No," I exhaled, because I kept hearing my mother's voice. "Don't become what they expect, Eli, become more." Maya's fingers traced slow circles on the back of my hand. "You did. I hope so." I looked up at the stars, faint through the city haze, but there. "I keep thinking about the kids who came through the Billionaire Thompson Center this year. One boy, Jamal, 16, told me he used to think tech was for other people. White people, rich people. Now he's interning at Apex next summer. Said he wants to build something that makes sure no kid ever feels like they don't belong." Maya smiled. "That's your legacy." "Our legacy," I corrected. We sat in silence a while longer. The swing rocked gently. Eventually she spoke again. "You know what I remember most about that night?" "What?" "Your smile, not the one you gave the room. The one you gave me when we left the ballroom. It wasn't broken, it was certain, like you'd already won and they just didn't know it yet." I turned to her. "I had." She kissed me then, soft, lingering. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. "Come to bed, tomorrow's another day to build." We did. The next decade unfolded like pages in a book I never thought I'd get to finish writing. Apex crossed 25 billion in valuation. We didn't throw a party. We opened 5 more community labs: Houston, Detroit, Oakland, Charlotte, Memphis, each one named after someone who'd helped me along the way. The Billionaire Thompson Innovation Center in Atlanta became a model copied by cities across the country. Free coding camps, free legal aid, free therapy for founders facing burnout or bias. We hired the kids who'd once thought tech wasn't for them. They became directors, VPs, C-suite. They hired more. Mia and Lena had a daughter, Zoe, in year 8 after the renewal. Tiny, fierce, already bossing her parents around at 3. Malik married his college sweetheart, Aisha, an architect. Their son, Elijah Jr., arrived 2 years later, named after me but with his father's grin in his grandmother's eyes. Family dinners became louder, holidays fuller. The house that once felt too big now felt exactly right. Victoria's foundation quietly donated another 10 million over the years. No fanfare. No press releases, just checks that arrived every spring like clockwork. I never reached out, she never asked. Some bridges don't need crossing twice. One afternoon in early fall, 22 years after the gala, I received an invitation, handwritten, cream envelope, Victoria's stationery, a private dinner, her home, no press, no agenda, just conversation. I showed it to Maya. She read it, handed it back. "You going?" "I think so," she nodded. "Take the kids' advice, smile." I did. The Hargrove residence hadn't changed much, same limestone facade, same wrought iron gates, but the energy felt different, smaller, quieter. Victoria met me at the door herself, no staff, no diamonds, simple gray dress, hair pulled back, lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. Elijah, she said, thank you for coming. I stepped inside. The foyer smelled like fresh lilies and old wood. She led me to a small sitting room, fireplace lit, two chairs, a low table with tea, no wine. We sat. She folded her hands in her lap. I've rehearsed this 100 times, never got it right. I waited. I was cruel that night, she said, not just thoughtless, cruel. I saw you standing there, successful, respected, everything Harlan and I pretended we were, and I hated it. Not you, what you represented. That someone from where you started could rise higher than we ever would on our own merit. She paused, swallowed. I spent years telling myself it was an accident, a slip, too much wine. Then I spent years telling myself it didn't matter. You forgave, you moved on, but it did matter to you, to your family, to every person who saw those photos and felt smaller because of them. I listened, no interruption. I can't undo it, she continued. But I can own it. I've spent the last decade learning, really learning about bias, about privilege, about what it means to be complicit. My foundation isn't penance, it's responsibility. And the donations to yours, they're not bribes. Their respect, she looked at me then, really looked. I'm sorry, Elijah, not for the headlines, not for the money, for the moment I made you feel like you didn't belong. You did, you always did. Silence settled between us, soft, heavy, honest. I let it sit, then I spoke. Thank you, I said, for saying it, for meaning it. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 20 years. I stood. I don't hate you, Victoria, I never did. I just refuse to let you define me. She nodded. Tears in her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. I walked to the door, paused. One more thing, I said. She looked up. My mother used to say, don't curse the darkness, light a candle. You lit one, keep it burning. I left. Outside, the night air was cool, stars sharp above the city. I drove home with the windows down, wind rushing past. Maya was waiting on the porch when I pulled in. I sat beside her on the swing. Well, she asked. I told her everything. She listened. When I finished, she rested her head on my shoulder. You did good, she said. I kissed her temple. We did good. We stayed there until the stars faded and the first light of morning touched the horizon. And somewhere in the quiet between night and day, I finally let the last drop of that old wine evaporate. No stain left, just the story and the people who lived it, and the table that grew big enough for everyone.